We got a great guest here tonight. We've got house producer Atom. Welcome, man.
How you doing, Dennis?
And we're going to talk about your favorite Beatles record, Abbey Road. And I got some great cool facts to share. And what's up, Captain Love Handles? What's up, Ballers? And so we're going to get into that, man. But I just want to say what's up to everybody also who's watching the replay. After the broadcast, I'll put timestamps like below so that you can skip to different parts of the video. All right. So I have some Fab 4 jokes for you guys. So without further ado, let's go to Chuckleballs. Paper bag, man. What's up? You know the deal, man. Park in the back. All right. We are here at Chuckleballs. As you can see, it's Beatles night. I've decorated this place like the Cabin Club. And the chat should come through, so give me a quick chat, dudes. All right, Atom. Hi, Mark Rojas. What's up, man? I have 5 Beatles jokes before we get to the Beatles facts, because I wanted to get right to it.
Yes.
All right, are you ready, man? Are you ready, Atom, for my
Yes.
Beatles jokes?
Play it on.
All right, guys. All right, this one goes out to you. What's Yoko Ono's favorite snack?
No idea.
Ice cream.
Oh.
Ice cream. Ice cream, because she screams. Get it? All right. That's a pretty good one. I wrote that myself. Here's another one. Did you hear about John Lennon's Lost Weekend, Jason Cope? Jason Cope's in the house from Pure Red. Did you hear about John Lennon's Lost Weekend, Atom?
No.
He binge watched the entire series in 2 days. He still forgot about the whole thing though. So did Nilsson. They can't remember a thing about the series. 2 days they watched it. All right, hold on. You know, Paul McCartney grew up poor, man. He couldn't even afford a calculator for school. Times were hard. Times were hard because he couldn't have a calculator.
Oh.
Like times with multiplication was hard.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paperback
That's a
Man.
reach.
Okay, you know Paul McCartney used to go out boating with his daughter Abigail.
All right.
Paul would sing with a guitar on Abbey Road. And then he would yell, "Oh, submarine!" He would yell when he saw bubbles. He would yell, "Oh, submarine!" Get it? Okay, never mind. I have a couple more. Those were bonus ones. Jason Cope. You know George Harrison always wore tight pants. George Harrison always wore tight pants. They were so tight, Atom. They were like a small hotel. You know how? You know why?
I know why.
No ballroom. No ballroom. No ballroom in a small hotel or in tight pants. All right. I have one more.
Okay.
You know, it's a Ringo joke. You know, Ringo actually considered a nose job. Did you guys know that?
No.
He walked out of the office, though, when the doctor asked him to pick his nose.
Crickets.
Okay. All right. I'll put that as a no laugh.
Nope, that's the negative.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for entertaining me as I told these terrible Beatles jokes. What's up, Scummy Mummy? Let's go to the record reaction room and talk about Abbey Road, because that's why we're here tonight, isn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, cool. All right, man. So I'm gonna ask you, man. Like, do you remember the first time you heard this record? This is possibly the best one. Some people say the best rock and roll record of all time.
I love it. I love it. Like Sgt. Pepper's obviously is amazing in its own,
Right.
but this was
Right.
one where every time I listened to it, it just spoke to me. It was like each one of these songs had their stories, and it was like each one was speaking directly to me. And
Yeah.
when I
The
first heard it,
yeah.
it was on vinyl, and you couldn't run across the living room floor too fast, or you'd skip and miss a couple of verses or something. But it was, one of those things where either you sat down with your headphones or you sat down and listened to the whole thing, each side, and it was a blast.
Scummy mummy, try refreshing it, man. I'm sorry. But yes, it's true, and I think what you're saying really speaks to the lyric, the quality of the lyrics, because they somehow are so universally, like particularly John and Paul's lyrics. I mean George as well. But all right, hold on a second here. Some of these facts. All right, I'm gonna go through some of these facts. Okay. Some of these are from ultimateclassicrock.com, and a lot of this stuff is from thebeatlesbible.com, and I have links in the description, so check them out.
Cool.
So, did you know this record was supposed to be called Everest? And it was supposed to be called Everest after the brand of cigarettes that the engineer was smoking. And they were going to do the album cover shoot at Mount Everest. And then they were like, we're too lazy to go to Mount Everest. And Paul was like, why don't we just name it after the street in front of the studio? So they did.
No way.
And they did, yes. And then they said it took them 30 minutes to do the album cover shoot right there. Isn't that so funny? These random things that just seemed like, they just did because they were lazy or whatever.
Yeah,
like having
were they in those outfits though? Like, did they all of a sudden, oh, I got to get some clothes on. I'm going out. We're going to go shoot a photo. Or they were like, hey man, let's just walk outside and do it.
I mean, I think they dressed cool every single day of their
Oh,
lives
yeah.
because that was a day that they were recording. In fact, one of the facts I have later is that they were recording She's So Heavy the same day that they did the album cover shoot. Yeah, thanks, Scummy Mummy. Make sure that you like the stream. All right, so so they ended up doing the shoot in front, and then I was like, it's almost like Paul just makes stuff up. It's like he's winging it. It's like he's winging it. No, but they just will do some random thing, and it's like genius. People are like, that's rock genius. And so, like, the guy, John Kosh, the creative director who designed the album cover, Abbey Road album cover, decided not to put the band name or the album cover, or the album name on the front, which was a big deal at the time, right? Like, most like, EMI was mad about it.
Well, yeah,
but he was
on the White Album. Wasn't that there was a big thing with the White Album too, where it was, they weren't going to put anything, or they just put the Beatles there, and that was
right. And it was embossed on the original one,
right?
And the record company was mad. In fact, we're gonna have an episode about the White Album, but
yeah,
there was they were supposed to all be numbered. Every single one was supposed to be numbered, but they weren't. But in any case, all right, hold on a second now. So, he was like, who else could it possibly be? It's the Beatles. People know it's the Beatles, And so this record, it was recorded after the Let It Be sessions, but it was released before Let It Be album.
Right. It's so weird. That's it's hard for me to understand, like pre-internet days, and just a kid listening to the vinyl that my dad bought.
Yeah.
And my mom. It was all in the little cabinet there, and it was all just in an area where all the Beatles albums were. So
Yep.
I had no knowledge of,
right.
that one came first or that one came later. I kind
right.
of could do a little detective work because
right, you could look at the dates.
They look younger here. They look wacky here.
Right, you could tell. Yeah.
But,
yes, but it's like it wasn't the same back then. As
right.
the older viewers will know, like you didn't have like a context. With the Beatles, maybe a little more, because if you really wanted, you could seek out fan magazines and stuff. But like there wasn't, and aside from liner notes or articles in magazines, there wasn't a lot of information about bands that you could get.
Right.
So then there would be word of mouth stories about Paul is dead or whatever.
Or you listen, it was like some FM radio show you'd tune into like on Fridays at 9 or something, and it would tell you interesting facts like this about the album in between the songs or something.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. Or a friend, you'd be hanging out with a friend and they'd be like, "Hey, did you know that like Paul McCartney and John Lennon were really mad at each other and blah blah
Right.
blah." And you'd be like, "No." Or like you'd get a bootleg of the Let It Be movie where they were fighting, which was rare to get. But
Yeah.
um so speaking of, that's a good segue because that you if anybody who was watching that Get Back thing saw that, there was a lot of infighting and things were a little tense in the studio, and also there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen, like
Yeah.
Glyn Johns was there and George Martin was there, and you had the Beatles all. And so George said that he would only produce Abbey Road if he had full control. No Phil Spector, no, he just had control.
That's
And
awesome.
he ran things like the old days. And it shows, man, cuz it's
Yeah.
like they put in their best work, and he also his orchestral
Production.
arrangements and production, like, were amazing, and it's funny because John thought that a lot of the songs were fragments and unfinished, and that, which they probably were, and that he thought it was like a bunch of garbage, basically.
Yeah.
It's funny that the stuff that they thought was garbage is like rock
Well,
iconic rock songs.
it's just, and it's at this point now, it's just so ingrained into the memory of my childhood, and like the that order that it went. Like
Yeah.
I always had to hear the songs in that order. If they like, this was probably one of the definitive albums that you'd always go to, and you wouldn't just put on your favorite song. Like you just sat, I'm listening to this side, and now I'm
It's an
listening to this side,
experience.
start to finish.
Yeah. Yep.
You
And it's
didn't
not.
do that with
Yeah.
much. You do it with Beatles albums, you do it with Pink Floyd albums.
Yep.
You know?
Captain Love Handle says he had Beatles wallpaper.
Wow.
That's cool. Was it like old Beatles or new Beatles? All right, so here's an interesting fact. All right, let's go through these tracks. I have some facts about each track. So the first track was Come Together, which is an incredible song, obviously. And John Lennon was sued for the song in 1973
Really?
because the opening line of Come Together, there's a Chuck Berry song called You Can't Catch Me, and the song goes, "Here come a flat top, he was moving up with me. Then come waving goodbye in a little old souped up Jimmy." And the song, it's an up-tempo blues song. I listened to the song. It doesn't really sound like, but it's the really pretty similar lyric. And interestingly, they did an out-of-court settlement, and John was agreed to record 3 songs owned by the publisher, including that, and they ended up on the 75 Lennon album called Rock and Roll, which was like 50s covers and stuff. And it was You Can't Catch Me, the Chuck Berry song, and then also a song called Ya Ya by Lee Dorsey, and Angel Baby by Rosie and the Originals. So I think, Matt, when you see a lot of those clips of John and Chuck Berry in 1975, they're promoting that record.
Right.
Yeah, I know Captain Love Handles. Blues songs borrowed lyrics all the time, and I personally would like it to be looser on that sort of thing. I don't think they should be so strict, but I mean, hey, that was
I love,
that.
and you all these different artists, get ideas. Oh, I'll get the ideas from blues, or it'll migrate from one genre to another. But
Yeah.
when you get into like covers of these songs, also like the cover that, wasn't it Alice Cooper that did a version of "Come Together" it was in the Sgt. Pepper's movie.
Oh, was it
Which
Aerosmith?
a lot of people poo-pooed, but I still love that movie also.
Oh, the Bee Gees
With the
one?
Bee Gees and Frampton and everything. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes. And that was, I bet, was Michael Lindsay Hogg involved with that?
I don't know, but it was like a lot of, there was a lot of drama with it. You got panned big time, but some of the music that came out of it,
Yeah.
there were like incredible covers, like Alice Cooper, Frampton, Bee Gees. And Earth, Wind, and Fire did like this amazing cover, and like all of them, like that's how wide a range the Beatles had. Like it would just touch
Yeah.
everyone.
And it's, it's funny when you listen to some of the late John Lennon stuff, not to get too far off topic, it sounds like the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple of songs, like Whatever Gets You Through the Night, for example.
Oh yeah.
Put that on after this, guys. Put on Whatever Gets You Through the Night by John Lennon and tell me it doesn't sound like a Bee Gees song.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in any case, that was interesting. And then the next song, of course, was Something by George Harrison, which was possibly, one of the best songs he ever wrote, and all the people in the band agreed that it was the best song on the album, actually.
Yeah.
Something, and what's funny, Frank Sinatra also thought it was the best song, one of the best songs the Beatles ever done,
Wow.
and he kept saying over and over again it was the best song that Lennon and McCartney ever wrote. Over and over again for decades. He miscredited that song to Lennon and McCartney. Freaking Frank. Come on, man. I'm sorry if I got... Yes. Okay, I was just checking to see if we had chats coming through. I wasn't seeing, but I don't. Guys, feel free to chat if you have facts that you think are interesting about these songs. So the title and the opening lyric were inspired by the similarly titled song Something in the Way She Moves by James Taylor, who was an Apple Records artist, a young guy. And James Taylor said, quote, "I never thought for a second that George intended to do that. I don't think he intentionally ripped anything off, and all music is borrowed from other music.
Right.
So I completely let it pass," is what James Taylor said. Sensibly, right? I mean,
right.
And then, interestingly, this is the only George Harrison song that was the A-side of a Beatles single.
Not to get too far off topic, also, people should check out right around that time frame when James Taylor was in England and involved with Apple and all of it. Apparently, there's some story about how James Taylor was driving his car on some of the back roads over there and clocked some guy.
What?
Yes, he tells this whole
James
story.
Taylor?
Yeah. I'm not gonna spoil. I'm not gonna tell anymore. But search it out. It's a wild
James
story.
Taylor. Boy,
James
these guys
Taylor.
were all partying pretty hard.
I'm sure.
He seems like he's drinking milk, but he wasn't drinking milk,
Not
guys.
back then.
All right. And so Maxwell's single Silver Hammer, I think the whole band hated this song, really.
Yeah.
They didn't like to play it. They didn't want to do it. It was a Paul thing, and he got Mal. I loved in Get Back. Got Mal Evans to get the anvil for it. That was funny, and I think because Mal was playing it in the rehearsal. I think that Mal actually might have played the anvil in the song.
I think so.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see that fact on Beatles album and on Beatles Bible, but I think he did. And
I
Mal
don't
Evans
think he got credited for it. I don't know.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who did stuff that didn't get credit for it. Like George Martin was playing electric cavalier or whatever, clavalier, or other instruments on these, like classical instruments. And Billy Preston played piano or organ on a ton of these songs and wasn't credited.
He's
either.
amazing.
So, Oh Darling, right? Great record. It took Paul McCartney a week to record the lyrics for this. It was July of 1969.
Wow.
And for a couple of days, he went in earlier than the rest of the band, earlier in the morning, so his voice would be rough and it would sound shredded, even though it was the beginning of the morning. So he would get up and go in early, and I'm sure George Martin was standing in there wearing a suit at 6 a.m., waiting for him to come in, all drunk from the night before, but he was going to go sing, "Oh, darling," in a rough voice. But you know how that is. When I'm in the shower in the morning, I never sound more like Peter Murphy than when I'm when I'm in the shower in the morning, or Jim Morrison. You know. Oh man. Okay, we had a couple of good comments here. Scummy Mummy said, "I almost fell off the chair." Scummy Mummy. Paper Bag Man and Paul McCartney's dead. Jason, what is that? Is that a documentary about Paul McCartney is dead? I
just
have
knew
not
of
seen
the
that.
rumor. That was it.
Yeah, I would like to. Maybe we can talk about that later. But yeah, Oh Darling's cool, man, because it has like this '50s vibe, but it almost sounds like heavy. It has like a Black Sabbath flavor to it, you know.
Right.
It's really cool. All right, and then so going back, speaking of other annoying songs, we're on Octopus's Garden now.
Now, when I was a little kid, I loved that song. I can't even. That's the one
Right.
song on the album now that I'm like, ugh.
Yes, and I was thinking about that too, because when I was preparing this, I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna say that this is really annoying, you know, but then I was like, but like when you have little kids or you are a kid,
It wasn't annoying. It was fun.
the songs that have that kind of an energy, which like make it feel like it's for you two.
Yeah.
You are allowed, you know, it's for kids, and the Beatles are safe and a fun, cool place to be. And I loved that about the songs. So as a kid, but now, man.
Yeah, now it's like we're beyond it. We're more sophisticated and everything. But I mean, back then it was like a great song, and I knew Bang Bang. You know, it was just like, or no, I'm thinking of Silver Hammer, but Octopus's Garden.
Yeah,
it was just that same kind of like fun kids sort of vibe.
It was a kid's song, straight out. You know, straight out.
Because we didn't even back then. I didn't understand all the messages and imagery of like come together and all the other stuff.
Right. So. And come together. Interestingly, was I think did I say about what the content of that song meant? I don't know if I had that. Oh no, I didn't. But in any case, yeah, it was exactly. You could understand it as a kid. It was fun. It was accessible, and you know what's funny is that was written quote unquote by Ringo Starr, right? And then if you watch Get Back, you can see that Ringo really only had a seed of an idea, and George Harrison came in and basically made it into a song.
Worked together, and
he helped him make it into a song. As he's a good friend, and he did that, and he allowed Ringo to have that. I mean, that's a gift of financial like boon for years to come.
I don't think that they weren't even thinking that way though. I think
probably not. He was just like
guys sitting around a campfire with an idea and like trying to, it's stuck up here and I can't get it any further. And the other guy says, "What if you do this?"
Yeah, they just always did that. That was what they did. Yeah. They didn't, but it was nice that he, and it made me think because later on, after the Beatles broke up, I'm sure they were thinking a little bit about financial things. And Ringo did a couple of records, and the best records he did, Ringo and another one, were produced by George Harrison, and they have a couple of songs on them that George wrote with him.
Right.
And really, they're George Harrison songs, man. Like they're written by Ringo Starr, but like when you listen to it, it's like It Ain't Easy and Photograph are the names of the two songs. Go listen to It Ain't Easy and Photograph and tell me if those are not George Harrison songs. So that just shows what a good friend and nice guy he was. What a good friend it is,
but also it gives you more understanding of, what Ringo's contribution was. The dude was an amazingly solid drummer who was, a creative drummer, but he was so he knew what it needed when it needed it.
Yes, he was amazing.
Songwriting necessarily,
Right. Yeah, and I want to actually do an episode about Ringo's drumming because he's an incredible drummer. I mean, Scummy Mummy saying the Beatles got their names from Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Yeah, it was the same sort of thing. That's exactly right. Yeah, I will watch it, Jason Cope. Is that Paul is Dead documentary on Amazon Prime or is it on Netflix? Say in the comments. John Lennon lived puns altering Beatles. Yes, that's right. Absolutely right. and they were very comical. Um, all right, so speaking of like John Lennon, you know, the next song, "I Want You,"
Mm.
he wrote that for Yoko. That's about Yoko Ono,
Wow.
and it clocks in at almost 8 minutes, and they recorded it over like a period of months. It's like when you listen to it, it's sort of like three different songs stitched together,
Yep.
kind of.
Yep.
And they're you know, it's like done in different tempos and rhythms, but it's really simplistic. Like critics made fun of the lyrics, but man, they're just this looping refrain of desire. It's
Right.
wild.
And it works and it builds and builds, and then that wall of sound at the end.
Yeah.
You know, that was, as far as I know, that was like one of the first times I experienced that kind of like it's building, building, building.
Right.
Sonically, it's like it's just getting so dense, and then to just stop it like
Yeah,
that.
to just stop it. And that was, I learned today when I was doing research, that was George and John both playing guitars. So those like guitars are both like John and George wailing at the same time. Yeah, really intense. And then it cuts off. And now, and Billy Preston plays organ on it.
Man.
And there's like a Moog wind swishing wind sound effect that John got in that. And then they also, as I mentioned before, they recorded this on the final recording of it was on August 8th, 1969, which was the same day they shot the cover picture.
Yeah.
So they were wearing those outfits, I guess, when they were playing that. John Lennon's dad didn't show up in his life until John was famous. Scummy Mummy says.
Right.
That's a shame. That's a shame. And it's unfortunate because it seems like he had a lot of trust issues around being abandoned and things like that. Jason says we have to pay on Amazon Prime for the Paul is Dead thing. All right, I'll check it out, man. John Lennon's hero was Elvis. Yeah, and they actually got to meet Elvis at one point.
They weren't
I
that
think
impressed with him, though. I guess.
I think that it was just weird. He was just He had a bunch of surrounded by a bunch of yes men.
Yep.
And he was watching TV, and he didn't really talk to them much. But then I think they played a couple songs with him, and they were kind of like, okay, we played with Elvis at least. But like, yeah, you're right. I think that he was just weird.
Yeah,
you know?
well, a lot of times, like I know you have as well. You meet some famous people, and there's a good number of these famous people that are just normal people like us,
right?
That've been in this real abnormal situation, and then you get into that. They're in that cocoon of either people that are just supporting or moving it along in some way, and they lose touch with reality.
And the Beatles really, I think a lot of their humor and their brotherhood between them was part of what kept them somewhat grounded.
Right.
But man, the strain, I don't think it was Yoko Ono or, you know, it was just like being a Beatle. The strain must have been must have been incredible. Jason Cope, I'm totally going to do a video about Paul is Dead as a thing, but I got to figure out how the best way to frame that. But I think it's a great topic. Okay, and so then the next one is we flip over the record, right? Now, as we flip this over, one of the things at one point, John Lennon was arguing for this to be one side him and one side Paul.
Wow.
Which also ignores George's contributions. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, but it was like even though he had stuff in the medleys, he didn't like them. And he thought he basically, here, when I go through the next few songs, Here Comes the Sun, okay. George wrote this. You want to do it with me, Jason Cope? Okay, yeah. About the video, we'll figure it out. I had to figure it out in such a way that we don't get copyright dinged for it. Here Comes the Sun was written by George at Clapton's summer house. Hold on, I'm gonna put the music. I think I have music here I can play. Maybe not. Never mind. He wrote it in Clapton's summer house. I'm assuming this is before Clapton did him dirty.
Yeah, I know.
and like
That's a little
cheated on him
shady.
his wife with his wife or
But they
whatever.
were all still buddies afterward too, which is that was a little.
I I know they remained friends
It
until
was the
later in
'60s, I
life.
guess.
I guess it was the '60s, but honestly, Clapton seems like such a jerk.
Especially
Like,
with these days.
yeah,
That's a whole
all
nother
yeah,
topic.
exactly. I know that's a whole nother topic for another video. The audience likes that as a possible topic for another. Why Clapton is a jerk? I almost did that as you know what I mean. Should I do that? Why Clapton is a jerk as a video title? People would click that, wouldn't they?
Oh, they would, yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. So Here Comes the Sun, the Beatles Bible says it expressed Harrison's relief at being away from the tensions within the band. And also troubles with Apple. There were all these issues with Apple and business and legal problems right around when the band, broke up.
Everything I've heard about Apple as the company there, it was
Yeah.
like just a total chaos. Like,
Yeah.
hippies coming and going. Like, it was just total mayhem inside the place.
Yeah,
That's what I've
yes.
read.
Yeah, they probably weren't like running it like good business people really. They were being like
Right.
hippy dippy about it. And
Right.
then you had like Alan Klein like ripping everybody off and and it's so funny because that whole there's actually a song later that's about Alan Klein. But yeah, so that was those stress he getting away from those stresses was Here Comes the Sun.
Mhm.
And he got a Moog from Robert Moog.
Wow.
And it was like one of the first ones, and he bought it, but he's like, there was no instructions and there was no manual, and
I think I remember Harrison had an album of
yes,
electronic music. Like
yeah, I think it might be called
synthesizer
electronic music or
Yeah.
something. I need to get that record, and it's very short, but
My
it's
dad
it's
had
like
it.
Moog.
My dad, I don't know if maybe my uncle has it now. I'm not sure, but I remember the album. It had like some kind of. Maybe I'm getting it confused.
It had a
but
painting on the front. It was
It
painting
was a
on the
painting,
front.
or it
with
was
the-
something that looked
Yeah.
a little bit like Yellow Submarine on the front.
It's like it's like a painting of George standing next to a bunch of electronic equipment done by a kid or something.
Yeah.
But I need to get that record. It's like Moog experiments, I think, which I think we would like. People would maybe who were expecting to hear My Sweet Lord might not like it, but I would want to hear that. He said George's quote was, "I first heard about the Moog synthesizer in America. I had to have mine made specially because Mr. Moog had only just invented it. It was enormous, with hundreds of jack plugs and 2 keyboards. But it was one thing having one and another thing trying to make it work. There wasn't an instruction manual, and if there was one, it probably would have been a couple 100,000 pages long. I don't even think Mr. Moog knew how to get music out of it. It was more of a technical thing. So when you listen to sounds, he continues, I'll do the voice. When you listen to sounds on songs on like Here Comes the Sun, it does do some good things, but they're all kind of infant sounds. He calls them infant sounds.
Uh-huh.
So interestingly, it's soft. So next time you listen to that, listen to the Moog.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Georgia calls them Mustusha Media. Thank you guys for sticking with me, man. This is an unusual sort of an episode, so let me know if you like it or not. I want to do a few more like this when we talk about a record. We do the setup and stuff. We have some reactions coming too, so after we do this. But let's move on to in the interest of moving along, Because was the next record. Interesting, right? This is a John Lennon song. The vocal harmonies are one of the most distinctive things. Lennon, Paul, and George recorded it, and they did it 3 times. So there's 9 voices there.
Wow.
And Yoko was a classically trained pianist, and she was playing in 1969. She was playing a Beethoven's Piano Sonata Number 14 in C sharp minor, Op 27 Number 2. For those who are keeping score. And that's the Moonlight Sonata. And John was like listening there on his sofa, and he asked her to play the chords backwards. And he wrote "Because" around the result. It's not an exact reversal of the Beethoven piece, but it contains musical similarities.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And
that's heavy.
I know. I thought that was and George Martin plays electric harpsichord. He really was the fifth Beatle, as we were talking about. You know, he was making all this
Billy
happening.
Preston, the fifth and sixth Beatles.
Paul McCartney Really Is Dead by George Harrison. Check it out. Okay, I'll check that out. I'm going to Google it after the show. Yeah, yes. Billy Preston, too. Yeah, fifth and sixth. Billy had he was on a lot of records.
Yeah.
And George was, too. George Martin, he didn't take credit, but it's like he wrote all those string, like Eleanor Rigby, those string parts. He wrote them. Wow. He got the guys in. He arranged it and made it happen, which is pretty substantial.
It's pretty amazing. A short interjection here is, my grandfather was a conductor, and he also was a classical cellist. And when I saw him later in his life, I showed him how I make music with my laptop and everything. And
yes,
it was one of those things where I was making the music with him. He was watching me make it. We were both listening to it, and you could see his eyes light up. And he said to me, if I had this back then, like when we wanted to make music, you had to have this huge, you had to hire the hall. You had to get all the musicians down there, everything. It was like this big production. Now it's just, boom, you're making music.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. It really is. And it's changed everything. It's like the studio has gone the way of the dodo. I mean, for the most part, there's still some out there, but like many bands can just record at home, which is great.
You could see it in especially with George and the other guys. Like you could see the excitement level they would have when that new equipment would come in. And they'd be like, well, what's this? How's this work?
Yeah, I noticed that too. They all like an organ gets rolled in and everybody's head turned and they're like, what's that?
Oh, let me try.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Hold on a second here. All right, the next song is You Never Give Me Your Money, which is, as we were talking about the Beatles, like business wranglings in 1969 with Alan Klein ripping them off.
Yeah.
That's him. You never give me your money. You only give me your funny papers. That's him. And, this is the genesis of the long medley of the second side, which is a genius piece of music and really shows that, in my opinion, John was kind of phoning it in at this time. I mean, he had some amazing songs on this record.
Right.
But Paul was running the Beatles, and Paul was making this album happen.
Right.
And Paul was the one who was being positive about different things and making the songs finish. Whereas John, when you even listen to him afterwards, he has negative things to say about half the songs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he wouldn't have even put them on the record, I guess. I don't know. But it seemed like, but not to get neg about John, but really that was Paul, despite the amazing Polythene Pam, Mr. Mustard contribution. So
was John Sun King though?
Yes, John is Sun King too. You're right. Okay, so which is the next one?
It's like a counter to each of these. Like, oh, you were with Paul for a while, and now it's answered by John.
It's interesting. I wonder what it would sound like if you. Well, I mean, a lot of them. It's interesting as we go into these last ones, man. The songs were recorded together. Some of them, they recorded two of the songs at the same time.
Right.
So, let me just read the last couple of things about You Never Give Me Your Money, and then I'll tell you what John said about Sun King, which illustrates what I was talking about a second ago. So then there's other bits in You Never Give Me Your Money. Like one of the parts is them being young and broke right out of college, right? Money spent, see no future. Mm-hmm. And then there's another thing about getting lost in the countryside on purpose with Linda, when he talks about, going on trips and stuff like this sort of. And here's the John Lennon quote about you never give me your money. He's always sort of bitter and jealous a little bit about Paul, how easily Paul's writing these songs that are universally loved. And he thinks it's gimmicky or something, but really they're great songs, right? He says, that's Paul. It's not really a real song, you know. Abbey Road was really unfinished songs all stuck together. Everybody praises the album so much, but none of the songs had anything to do with each other. There was no thread at all. Just the fact that we had stuck them together. That's what John said about it. What's up, Paper Bagman? Thanks.
That was the way that John.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Chat. Appreciate you. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's how they fought a lot of the time. Guys, if you have thoughts, put them in. I appreciate you guys being here. Like button, thumbs up, blah, blah, blah. Really. I don't mean to ignore you guys. We're just getting into the conversation, and I hope you're enjoying it. And you can, if you feel like chiming in, feel free. But yeah, isn't that crazy that there was a book called All We Are Saying by David Sheff, and I'll put a link in the description after the show. A lot of the John Lennon quotes in this episode come from that book.
Wow.
Like when he talked to David Sheff about Sun King, he called it, quote, "That's a piece of garbage I had laying around." Sun King.
I didn't know that Captain Love Handles here says that Jose Feliciano did a version of Bathroom Window.
Oh, man. I didn't know that either.
I got to find that. That's probably because I love Light My Fire by him. So.
Yeah. And he did one other Beatles song I've heard. I heard him do Here Comes the Sun. Captain Love Handles, did Jose Feliciano do a whole album of Abbey Road covers, or did he do a whole album of Beatles covers? I know George Benson did. All right, hold on a second. So, to go on here, let's see here. Yeah, that's a piece of garbage.
Sun King, right?
So Sun King, right. That part where he's speaking different languages, fake languages.
Cuando para mucho mi amore.
Right, yeah, Quando. They say they say chickafurdy, chickafurdy, which was slang for fu. That was Liverpool slang for fu. So they say chickafurdy a couple times in it, and people were like, that must be Spanish or something.
Right,
but that was just
didn't
funny.
know what any of that meant, but it's still to this day. Cuando para mucho mi amore.
Mi amore. Oh, Captain. Well, I'm going to have to check that out, Captain Love Handles. Thanks for the heads up on that Jose Feliciano record. So, the Mean Mr. Mustard song, yes, I love that. He said his sister Pam, because he wanted to link it to Polythene Pam. Like it was supposed to be his. It was originally his sister Shirley. And I love that. I love those kind of these weird. Oh, they're almost like sleazy characters, like
and that's what
like from Tommy, like you know, Uncle Ernie from Tommy. Yes,
in Sgt. Pepper's the movie with the Bee Gees and everything, and they made characters like there was a Mean Mr. Mustard character, and he was slimy like that guy.
And so awesome. he says, let me tell you who Mr. Mustard was. He says, John said, I changed it to Pam to make it sound like it had something to do with Polythene Pam. They're only finished bits of crap that I wrote in India. Finished bits of crap. Mean Mr. Mustard was based on a miserly man named John Alexander Mustard, about who Lennon had read in the Daily Mirror, June 7th, 1967. Hold on a second. Let me bring it up here. Hold on a second. There it is. He was a 65-year-old Scotsman who had been taken to a divorce court by his wife due to his meanness. And John says, this is again from David Sheff's book, All We Are Saying, that's me writing a piece of garbage. I'd written somewhere in the newspaper about this mean guy who hid 5-pound notes, not up his nose, but somewhere else. And no, it had nothing to do with cocaine. That was John's. Yeah, it's interesting, right? There really was a John Mean Mr. Mustard.
Well, and they pulled their resources to make these songs out of everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, the fact that he just calls it a piece of garbage blows my mind. So, Polythene Pam is also awesome.
Yeah.
This was recorded with She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. So they recorded them both as like a, two songs together. Right. And it was the only time in the Beatles' history that two separate songs by two separate songwriters were recorded together as a medley. Though I don't know that they did much medley recording anyway. Let's see. It harkens back to their early days of performing. This is from Beatles Bible. The early days of performing in Merseyside seedier venues. And it resurrects the group's Yeah, Yeah, Yeah refrain from She Loves You. Polythene Pam is drawn from two different women from two times in the Beatles' existence. The first was Pat Dawson, a Liverpool fan from the group's early days, who is known as Polythene Pat due to her improbable love of polythene. She was like one of those people like on Strange Addiction who eats like weird things. And she would eat polythene bags. That's like a cellophane bag, right?
That's insane.
And she says, Pat Dawson says, I started to go to see the Beatles in 1961 when I was 14, and I got to be quite friendly with them. If they were playing out of town, they'd give me a lift back home in the van. It was about the same time that I started to get called Polythene Pat. It's embarrassing, really. I used to just eat polythene all the time.
Wow.
I'd tie it in knots and then eat it. And sometimes I used to burn it and then eat it when it got cold. And I had a friend who worked in a polythene bag factory, which was wonderful because it meant I had a constant supply.
So weird.
Oh, okay. He's saying that Jose also does "And I Love Her," "A Day in the Life," "Yesterday," Blackbird covers. Cool.
Wow.
But yeah, and then the second one was the girlfriend of English beat poet Royston Ellis, who John called London's answer to Allen Ginsberg. And he said it was like her girlfriend, and they like wrapped their bodies in polythene like they were trying to have some kind of a sexual fetish experience.
Oh, insane.
It was in like 1964. And they said it like they slept together and stuff, but it was like nothing really sexual happened. That nobody was really into it, and it was just kind of strange. It was, but they tried.
Too much polythene going around.
Good night, Jason. You going to bed, man? Good night, man. All right, we're almost at the end here of this, and then we're gonna do some memes. So stick with me. So She Came In Through the Bathroom Window is about apple scruffs. You know those girls that hung out in front of the thing, or who were groupies. And apparently, get this, they would hold vigil not only outside the studio but outside the members' home. I will watch Paul McCartney's Dead, Jason. I will. And one of the fans took a ladder from Paul McCartney's garden and climbed in through his window and stole a photo of his father from his apartment. Yeah, and
no privacy.
And this woman named Diane Ashley said we found one of the apple scrubs was quoted in a book called The Hard Day's Right by Steve Turner. We found a ladder in his garden and stuck it up the bathroom window, which he'd left slightly open. I was the one who climbed up and got in.
Mm-hmm.
And then Margot Bird says in the same book, there were really two groups of apple scruffs, those who would break in and those who would wait outside with cameras and autograph books. I used to take Paul's dog for a walk, and I got to know him pretty well. There was one picture he particularly wanted back, a color-tinted picture of him in a 30s frame. I knew who had taken it, and I got it back for him.
Oh, wow.
Paul McCartney's neighbors attempted to contact him when they realized the break-ins were taking place, which was the lines, Sundays on the phone with Monday, Tuesdays on the phone with me, is his neighbors trying to tell him. And so, yeah, I just thought that was that was the two, and so these songs were recorded as one take, and they did 39 takes of the song's basic track,
Damn.
with John and Paul singing the guide vocals where needed, and they chose number 39, take 39 was the best one, the last take, and they subjected that take to further overdubs, and then take 27 was released on some formats of the 50th anniversary of Abbey Road, so you can hear that one there. But all right, I'm gonna cruise through these last ones because I know this is a long episode, man. I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. Golden Slumbers, you know, when he was speaking of Paul McCartney's father, when he was visiting him, he saw a piano book that contained a poem by the 16th century English playwright Thomas Dekker. And Paul McCartney used the words, he changed a few words and put his own melody to this poem that begins, "Golden slumbers kiss your eyes, smiles awake you when you rise. Sleep, pretty wantons, do not cry, and I will sing a lullaby."
Wow.
So that's from a Thomas Dekker play from the 1500s. And then we cruise on, man. Thanks, Paperbag Man. I appreciate your support, brother. And then, yes, Neuromorph. What's up, man? That's Neuromorph. You know who Neuromorph is? He's the photographer from Booty Boston. Remember that guy?
Nice.
All right, so Carry That Weight.
That one was always uplifting to me. It was such a way to finish it. It felt so positive.
Yep, and it was cool how it had that, you know, he brought in the horns to play "You Never Give Me Your Money" part, and you know they play it twice, I think, during that song.
Yeah,
you know, it pulls together.
Yeah,
George,
like kind of like putting a bow on it at the end.
Yeah, and really, again, George Martin's production just blows it out of the water and makes it into this almost cinematic, enormous cinematic experience that, again, towards the end of the side is building in a really positive vibe. What's up, Sports Talk? How's it going, brother? So yeah, it really did. It gave it a sense of continuity, you know, man. And so, and then go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, you get to that as it goes into, you know, the end. Holy crap! Like, do you know who came up with the lyrics in that one, or
the end is a Paul song? So this is like, by this point, John is checked out. You know, and there are some songs that Paul does almost entirely on his own, you know? And when people complain that Paul played drums on this, that, or the other thing,
right?
Generally it's because Ringo was in the hospital because he was a pretty sick guy. Or, you know, he was just the only one showing up.
Right.
Yeah, Sports Talk, Yellow Submarine Man. That's a great song. We're going to be talking about that twice because it's on Revolver and it's on Yellow Submarine. So what were you say? So yeah, it was a Paul's song. It was a goodbye to the fans. It's the only Beatles song with a drum solo.
I wonder how he got that in his head. Like, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. I'm like, wow, that's so profoundly heavy, but like poignant. Like, amazing.
And Paul and John's, and you know what John said about that line?
He probably hated it.
He said, no, he liked it, but he said...
Really?
He said, that's Paul again, the unfinished song, right?
Right.
We're on Abbey Road, and it's just a piece at the end.
Yeah.
He had a line in it where he says, and in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you give, which is actually not correct. Yeah. Which is a very cosmic, philosophical line, which again proves that if he wants to, he can think. If he wants to, he can think?
Man,
thanks, John.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. Sports Talk back in the USSR is also a classic Paul McCartney song.
You know, it was one of those, like, after you get through the end and... Like, there was that, is it like 30 seconds at least
Yep.
30 seconds before it gets into Her Majesty.
Yes. Which was
And-
actually supposed. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that was my first introduction as a kid, also to, oh, the album's over. Well, wait a minute, what's this? And then like this mini song right at the end, and that one was another one where it just boom committed to memory, and even to this day, I remember all the words.
Yeah, and that's the shortest song.
Right.
And the end. I'll give one more fact about the end before we go into the memes, the Beatle memes. The end was the only song that had a drum solo, and they had to convince Ringo to do it.
Wow.
He didn't want to do it. So thanks, guys, for sitting through all of that. All of that about every single song. But I think that I hope you found it interesting. Yeah, back in the USSR, man. All right, now let's go to the reaction room. We got some Beatles reactions here. Okay, these are just some memes, Abbey Road memes. Ready?
All right.
What happened? I forgot my mask. Timely. Yeah, Sir Paul is in a bunch of stuff, man. All right, then there's another one, Monday.
You gotta love Photoshop.
I know, it really is cool. All right, I just cranked through these because they're funny. There's not a lot to be said, but I mean, just okay. Now here on this one, I had a thought. Now, shouldn't Lisa be the vegetarian? Paul McCartney. Is George a veg though? I mean, maybe
I think
he's
George
a vegetarian.
wasn't he?
Maybe he might have been. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overthinking it. All right, let's move on. This one's not funny or anything. I just thought it was cool. I just thought it was a cool look,
Stained
you
glass
know.
effect.
Yeah, stained glass, exactly. Simpsons, Beatles, exactly. And actually, Paul McCartney and Ringo both were on the Beatles as guest stars.
They
All right,
were
hold on a second.
On the Simpsons.
That's classic. Yes, I'm sorry, on the Simpsons. Did I say they were on the Beatles?
Yeah, they were
What
on, the
on
Beatles,
earth?
all right.
They were on the Beatles, all right. Yes. All right, so here we go.
There
yes.
we go.
Yes. I mean, not much to be said here except they're awesome. All right, here's a good one.
Nice.
I mean, come on. That's a great one.
John's got a bit of the Ministry of Silly Walks going there.
He does. I know. And they all have a different thing. And I like how Paul is waving his cigarette around. Yeah, it did look like it was made out of jelly beans, Sports Talk. It's true. Oh, I will, man. I'm going to see it. Paul McCartney's dead. Jason's recommending it. Okay. All right. Now, speaking of recommendations, here's my recommendation, man. I'm going to put this to the front here. Macklemore Avenue by Booker T and the MGs. Record from 1970. It's just all Abbey Road songs in medley format. Instrumentals. It's not everything. They don't do the goofy children's songs, for example. Right. But it's great, and it's in different order. You know, the end is on the first side, I believe. But I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. I just discovered it like last year. I don't know how I didn't know this existed because I kind of seek out Beatles covers. Yes. All right, guys.
Cool.
Hold on a second. Let's get back to our. I want to go back to the room there. There we are. All right, guys. Party rock anthem dance. Woo! All right. Thank you, Paper Bagman, SG Sports Talk Channel, Neuromorph, Captain Love Handles, everybody who joined us, and of course our special guest Atom, who has an album. Thank you for coming, and you have an album coming out, so we're gonna have you back on the show. Thank you, Captain Love Handles.
Yeah.
We'll have you back on when your album comes out.
Nice. I don't know if we'll have as many good facts though.
You know, that was exhausting. So I don't know. I'm not sure that'll always be the format of the show, But I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, there was actually really interesting stuff
I didn't
there.
know most of that. It was awesome.
I know. Believe me, I learned most of it like yesterday and today. So, all right, guys.
Cool.
Thanks very much. Have a good weekend and peace out.
And a 1 and a 2.
1, 2, 3. Dennis ball, Dennis ball. The world outside is making me so sad. But when I watch your show, it seems the world is just a joke, and things don't seem so bad. Your multi-personality is worth more than your pedigree. You're rolling with the punches like a champ. With all your skill, you're sure when you like the room when you walk in.
That's just a lamp.
Dennis ball, Dennis ball. Make me laugh. The world outside is making me so sad. But when I watch your show, it seems the world's just a joke, and things don't seem so bad.
Possum Kingdom Ramblers. Bambi, Ricky, Jazz. It's a real